Data collection rule. Data collection endpoint is also there. And this is what I was talking about, right? You can see the transformation editor is there, and it asks you to create the columns from a sample file. So I've created a sample file earlier, and I just use that sample file. It will be just okay. So this is what I've kept. Very simple. Time generated, pipeline name, and custom log. So I'll just use that to create the schema, right? You can see all three came here. Now you can use the transformation editor. Just go with this and click on create. And it takes some time to reflect on the UI. Sometime. And our DCE, data collection endpoint, data collection rule, and custom table all are ready. Now we'll just create the pipeline on the ADF and see if we can use that. Yeah. Pipeline. That test pipeline. Add a copy activity. Copy data from one container to another. Just forgot. We need to create containers as well. So I'll just go ahead and create two containers. One is source. One is target. Yeah. And in the source, I'll just upload some CSV file. The data that I want to copy. Very basic, yeah. And so copy data, go to source, create a new data set, search for blob, file, continue. Create a new link service and I'll just give access to the storage account for ADF to work, right? And I need blob contributor. Assign. Now this should work. Should work. It container name is source. For sync, we need to do the same. Create this data set. File target and we already have created the linked service and target, right? Now this copy activity is done. I'll just publish. Now I'll just publish the changes and we'll just see if this pipeline works fine. Okay, the changes are published. I'll just debug. So we can see two files right now should come. Okay, succeeded. So okay. Now in the target, you can see the file is copied, right? Now I'll give you a idea what does the regular monitor does, right? In the regular monitor, you can see that test pipeline has run, right? So this is the regular monitor of ADF. It tells you when the run started, when it ended, what was the duration, what was the status, okay, and the run ID. And if you want to look into what actually happened in the pipeline, you go inside the pipeline, then you'll see that there is an input, there is output, and you can also see other stats, right? But it can only tell you this much, right? You can't write custom logs, or you can't see custom details from this regular monitor. So this is where we are using that HTTP call to ingest the custom data into the log analytics. So for that, we just need to create web activity, and I'll create success log. I'll copy the same right error log. Yes. So we can write, if it is success, it will write how many rows it has copied. If it is failed, we can write custom logs like this has failed at this step, or it's a very simple pipeline, but you can write it multiple times, or you can use one at the end of each flow so that you know where the error has been, right? Now, if you go here, you'll see the URL, and the URL we already discussed. I'm not gonna put everything here right now, but I'll show you the one pipeline that I have already created. In that, it will be easier rather than just trying to get all the values and put the ADF on that I created previously. Same exact same pipeline. I'll just show you what are the inputs for the web activity. Right in the success log, you can see. So I've created three global parameters, which will make it easier. So you can go to manage and global parameters. So you can see these are the global parameters I'm using. Again, very slow. Okay. So the first one is the DC endpoint. Then we have the immutable ID. I forgot to tell you, you should use the immutable ID in there. If you go to the PCR, if you go here, you'll see the immutable ID. So this is the ID that you will be using. This is the ID that it uses to identify which data collection rule you are going to use, right? So this immutable ID also will be used. And this is the Azure monitor URL, and this is the custom law table, right? Log analytics table. I'm using all this to frame the URL. Check the settings. Concatenating the global DC point, then the immutable ID, the data collection rules, then immutable ID, then streams, then custom, right? And then the API version. So that's the URL. Then I'm using post. Then this is the log that we want to ingest. If you remember columns in our custom table. So I'm just sending time generated is the pipeline name is the dynamically it is fetching the pipeline name, and custom log I'm just putting status as success. But again, you can also use the output of the previous activity, which will tell you how many rows were copied, right? So now if we just run this, while it runs, I'll open the log analytics where we can see the logs. Log analytics and search for the tables. Now, this is that we just ran. We're using UTC time, it's showing 8:45 a.m. And you can see this is the custom log that we just sent from the pipeline, right? And you can see the status is success. And time generated is the UTC time. Now, if you want to write how many logs, how many rows you have written, so you can see here. This is the output of the copy activity. It has data written, file state, files written. You can use any of this output and give us input in the pipeline log, right? So if you and in the custom log, you can write the outputs, copy CSV, output dot files read. Yeah. This will give you the number of rows it has, number of files it has read, or you can write rows read or rows write, whatever you want, right? So this is how you can write custom logs from the ADF. And this is just a simplest example, which I can show you in 30 minutes. But we can implement complex theories as well. For our client, I have used like how many rows has been written, and I have a like huge pipeline. So it has like 3 child pipelines and 40 tasks in most of them. So what I've done is I keep collecting the logs in a variable, and at the end I just write one log saying what are the steps that has passed and what is the step that has failed, right? So you can do many things with that. It's a HTTP call, right? So you have the freedom to do write any data you want as a log, right? So that's all. Any questions? Agreed. Thanks.
The people who come all the time know that we appreciate our speakers. So I just want you to know that I went through a lot of trouble to make sure that the gift bag matches the color theme of your PowerPoint slide.
Thank you. Thanks. So I generated the PPT like in 5 minutes using AI. I was not sure what color code it has used. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks. If anybody wants a break, bathroom break already, grab a quick pizza or whatever, go for it now, but in 5 minutes, we'll start with Adam.
Great.
Yeah.
Neil.
Yeah.
So I hosted.
For a while. Yeah, but maybe were you at the Data Saturday thingy a few weeks back?
I did a boot camp. I did last year, November, for at SSW.
No, I didn't do that at SSW. But I'm sure it's not, yeah. You packed up and haven't touched for a while.
Is that your vehicle, Adam?
Sorry?
Is that your vehicle, Adam?
Yes, indeed. Of my product. I get to use it as much as.
Fine, my expectations are how high that is. Talking about the next 10 years or what? It's okay.
That's what I said.
It's nice to be able to say, yeah, it's already that's what it's in there, so it's already one. No problem. But that's
Actually, I'm getting it done. But it's $300,000 staff. You know, planning to get enough time to pay staff for the year. That's right. What's lined up here?
This week is quiet, and that's my problem. This is why I could be and I did some ads. But sometimes I get, I got so the last time I read was for the and you better see have an open day in there. I was like, I always. Oh, that was last time. But this month, we have.
Look on there. Right? It looks like a mirror. I thought it's a mirror.
Ah, yeah.
Actually, I'll be cheesy. Bernie, do you mind taking a photo for me?
Sure.
So my daughters can go. They're at the age now where they see me sitting at the computer all the time going, Dad, your PowerPoint looks great. And but they don't get what I actually do. I'm like, no, I actually go and do it in front of people.
How do they know there's other people here?
That's true.
This is on YouTube, by the way.
Well, there's at least one.
Oh, it is too, yeah.
At least one taking a photo.
Actually, I should show them the YouTube. That's a much better idea.
Yeah, not with that bit.
Actually, I'll name them now. Amelia and Clara. This is for you. There you go. That's actually the best idea. Awesome. Look, thanks everyone for coming along. I'm very sorry about last week. I called and cancelled on Dan on the morning and said, hey, I'm losing my voice. I'm not going to be able to speak tonight. But I'm really, you know, when you're like, oh, I don't want to do it. I'm so glad I did because I was in agony for like 3 days, unable to swallow. So yeah, it ended up being a really bad viral throat infection. So I was really glad I didn't come along and battle through and then give it to everybody else because it was horrible. It was horrible. But thanks heaps for coming along. I'm Adam Stevenson. I'm the principal AI architect at Agile Insights. Did a bunch of time here at Microsoft. But then I left to go and build AI all day, every day a couple of years ago. So I stood up the Agile practice, the AI practice. So we build AI applications for, you know, lots of government, lots of state government, local councils, health, lots of universities, and a bunch of commercial organisations as well. And so this talk is really around just what I'm seeing and a couple of big pictures, kind of stakeholding. I think if you're looking to build up AI applications, this is kind of my take on the AI world at the moment. I'm going to click this and it doesn't actually work. So I'm a developer. I've written code for many years. And when I stood up the practice, the best way to go and start a new AI application is you'd talk to the business, you'd find out their requirements, and whether it was in .NET or Python, you know, GitHub is flourishing with really awesome starter accelerators where you could grab the code, deploy the application, stick your data in, and actually build solutions that actually delivered a heap of value. So I've had massive success over a bunch of years delivering RAG, retrieval augmented generation solutions that did heaps and heaps of things. You know, off the top of my head, just grabbing two off the top of my head, an organisation, national organisation that does, with a bid team that does, you know, 1,000 RFPs a year. They built a solution where, you know, they're constantly replying to RFPs, little tiny ones, medium-sized ones, big strategic ones. Just building a simple RAG app, they could qualify bid, no bid in 3 minutes instead of 4 or 5 hours on these really small, low-value bids that would accumulate to a lot of income over the year. But that decision point for them took a long time to get to. We took that from being hours to minutes. So then they're focusing more time on the more medium and strategic bids. We also made them find the information to be able to do the medium-sized bids heaps easier so they could respond to them more easily and, you know, and do much better planning and insights on the larger bids. You know, ESG reporting saved a company $800,000 on their ESG reporting bill just using these basic solutions. So what I'm going to say is it's not that these solutions are bad, but we've seen things change and we've moved on. You know, this is how I build code. You know, I'm actually in my heart, I'm an Angular guy. My React is the way I know people roll their eyes. You know, but the way we've been building applications is some kind of a front end. I'm sure I know there's, if Damien was a big Blazor fan, some kind of a front end is talking to some kind of an agent. Usually it doesn't matter whether you're using, you know, semantic kernel or you're using, you know, LangChain, or there's some kind of agentic toolkit that you're using hosted in a language like Python or C#. then there's some kind of data store with some database, and then a platform that's providing your AI pieces. You know, this is, you know, if we were to take a step back, and this is something I've been saying for a few years, this is not dissimilar. These AI applications are 90% the same web applications we've been deploying in the cloud for 10 years. There are front end, there's some APIs, there's some storage. We're securing them the same way. We're using private endpoints, we're using Entra, Azure Monitor. This is all the same stuff that we've been deploying applications with for years. We've got some different frameworks in our code. Really though, we're talking, the thing that makes it different is our OpenAI, our large language models that really are just a stateless API endpoint that happen to do some really cool stuff. Apart from that, and we've got a few new services, AI search, as you know, we've seen index under the covers. It's really just a data store. It's a smart data store. You know, document intelligence, once again, using some AI. This is not dissimilar to what we've been building for years. Really not that complex, but we've been building AI applications on it for years, getting great results. So I had this hammer, and I've spent the last few years running around building cool stuff with my hammer. And we've built amazing applications by stamping these things out over and over again. As they've gone along though, new stuff is always coming out, and the rate that Microsoft is adding capabilities into Foundry is nothing short of astounding. My hammer is so good now. It does really incredible things. So I can build things like I've never built them before. And the tooling that comes out every build has me super, super impressed. So really my hammer now is Millionaire, and if you show me an AI problem, I reckon I can whack it with it. And I can build you a solution that's going to solve your problem. Now, there are other people who build AI applications. And rather than building stuff, they like getting components and screwing them together. You know, some people call these low-code developers, some people call it, so this is tongue-in-cheek, poking fun, but I find that I'm going in there, and I've always said when it comes to, I've never been the biggest fan of Power Platform. I've always thought I can do really everything you can do in Power Platform, I can do in Pro Code better, faster. You know, it's always been a bit of a them and us, but really though, you know, that's tongue-in-cheek. There's so much value in being able to plug things together and put the capability to deliver in the hands of the business and be able to build solutions. And the same thing comes when it comes to the citizen developer AI applications. So we have been, at the same time I've been delivering with my hammer in organisations, there are people in the organisation that are accountants, that are lawyers. I've gone into government and there's a lawyer there who's responsible for consolidating from 300 policies to 30 policies. Smart guy, not tech, he's a lawyer. He's there with Copilot Studio, putting in all the policies, pumping stuff out and then surfacing agents through Teams to the organisation. Absolutely cracking. So this has been kind of the them and us world, with people choosing their tool of choice and deep diving on it. And that's kind of been what's happening in what I've seen been happening in the AI space for the last few years. Big, you know, I'm very tongue-in-cheek around the them and us. When it comes to, I want to build something and I want to surface, and I want to build an AI app and I want to surface it through Teams, SharePoint, Slack, Facebook, the channel piece around the Copilot Studio environment is absolutely amazing, as is its connectivity back into the Microsoft ecosystem. So it really has been I've got my hammer, I've got my low-code tool. I'm going to choose one or the other. I had a brainwave moment. I had a sit back and ponder moment at Build last year, and it kind of happened at the same time as I saw AI apps have always had a bad rap. There's always been this 80 or 90% of AI apps fail. I've kind of racked that up and gone, that's because people are choosing the wrong use cases and trying to do things they shouldn't be doing in the first case. But it got worse. It really got worse mid last year. And I was kind of going, things that should have been deliverable were getting harder. And what it was about is expectations were being raised. Doing things the way we were doing them were no longer good enough. Organizations wanted more, they needed more. They wanted to be able to use natural language over SQL databases. They wanted to be able to take their data that was coming from their M365 stack and their data that they were uploading and their relational data and have it all working together. At the same time, we had CEOs and CIOs wanting to teams and going, we should be able to do more with less. We don't need as many people because you should all be AI. So it's a real crunch point. So I came out of Build and I was kind of going, I'm seeing more pressure, more people are coming to me saying AI is hard. But at the same time, I was kind of thinking, why is that? What's going on? And same problem that had been around for a while, organizations wanting to do AI, but not having done the work on the foundations, not having a mature data platform, wanting to be able to ask questions over their data with natural language, and not only not having the data, but not having the semantic model and understanding of what their data platform was like, not having a mature integration platform, not having the ability to, we want our AI to be able to interact with our CRM and with our Dynamics ecosystem and with our Office ecosystem, but not having the means to make that happen and not having control and governance. And all of these reasons were contributing to solutions not box working and then failing to get to production. And then the big one is organizations pushing ahead with proof of concepts without understanding what the ROI was going to be or what the risk was going to be. None of these are technology problems. These aren't the way I was building applications, getting code, deploying a solution. None of these are related to the technical pieces that I would normally call developer. These aren't developer problems. Getting the latest OpenAI AI model, getting the latest, semantic, and depending on whatever framework you're using for your agentic framework, these aren't things that improving your code or improving your model are going to change. These are the biggest picture problems. So I was contemplating this at the same time that Build came out. And I was also contemplating this problem of, I've got my low code ecosystem and my pro code ecosystem. Yeah. And at the same time, what was the big announcement February last year? What was the thing that really made me start scratching and sitting back having beers, contemplating AI in the universe? It was the MCP protocol. And all of a sudden, your AI things could start talking to other AI things. And as someone with an interest in integration, I started going, well, this could be the answer to my, can pro code and low code finally get along? So I was doing backflips, making my OpenAI search available to my low code applications as well as my pro code applications and going, aha, I've almost solved it. So I saw enterprises struggling to turn experiments and their proof of concepts and MVPs into production ready applications. And I really went, you know what? This enterprise AI success, it's an ecosystem problem. It's not a code, a framework, or a model problem. And that's really what I want to talk through, how my perception on what I think it's going to look like for the next couple of years. And going from thinking about this as a developer who might get charged or an architect who might get charged with go and build all this thing, I think we need to take a step back. This is the pro code development stack. Just what I called out before. I put Blazor in here. I literally put that on for Damien. I've got React. I've got Blazor. I've tried to put it in. I thought I'm going to be a bit architecture. I'm going to put these things on layers. So in my experience layer, I've got my React. I've got my Blazor. I'm building my pro code agents on Foundry using the Microsoft Agent Framework. If you haven't heard of the Microsoft Agent Framework, Microsoft used to have Semantic Kernel, which was the framework that we used for building our RAG systems and our agents that was kind of reliable, and I got stuck with it because of the kind of customers I worked with. All the cool kids were using AutoGen because it was the thing that had agents and all of the new stuff went into AutoGen. And then once they worked out and they baked it down and they'd stabilized it, they'd slowly come to Semantic Kernel. Microsoft put them both together and it became the Microsoft Agent Framework. So basically, if you're building agents today in the Microsoft stack, it's kind of the go-to for a bunch of reasons. It's worth 5 talks on its own. then I have some databases, I have my SQL, I have some storage. Then I have Foundry. Foundry is where you've got your models. You've got your AI search, which is essentially your AI-enabled database. You've got your document intelligence for cracking your documents, your Cosmos DB for storing your things, if you're cloud native, Cosmos place, and your security and monitoring stack. This is how I build applications. I kind of went, in an ecosystem world, really? Oh, and then MCP came out. And if you haven't heard of MCP or used MCP, the analogy everyone's saying is it's USB for your AI applications. It's a standardized protocol for basically plugging data into AI applications. So everyone got on board. I've never seen anything adopted so ubiquitously so good. So organizations like Salesforce, MuleSoft, ServiceNow, they actually expose their data using standard protocol where you can actually now go, I'm going to go and build an AI application and I'm just going to connect to their MCP server, and they expose their data and their tools for interacting with them in a standardized way instead of needing to go and look at their API documentation and do a custom documentation. So it's really made building AI applications that interact with external systems seamless. So as long as that, then we came along and I thought, well, let's put the M365, let's put the Copilot Studio stack on. And then, so we've got all of those channels. The Copilot Studio brings you, if you want to build an application and surface it through Teams, through Copilot, which is worth a conversation of its own, SharePoint, Salesforce, Slack, Facebook, all of these things, you can go build a Copilot Studio application and just publish it out via those channels. Super powerful using Copilot Studio agents, and it pulls data in from connectors all through. It will connect to everything you can think of. So super easy way to build applications and publish them out. As well as that, who uses Copilot daily at work? Only a couple. Who tried Copilot and thought it was rubbish? Yeah, that was all super overrated. I tried it a couple of years ago when I was at Microsoft and went, wow, this poor man's ChatGPT. It was slow, it was clunky, it was a far inferior experience. It is absolutely cracking. And every time I can say this now because I don't know Microsoft anymore, every time Satya said Copilot is the UI for AI, I rolled my eyes and didn't get it. But of course, he's way smarter than me and he knows what's going on. Copilot, I think, if you're building AI applications, is essential. It's where everyone is going to expect every AI application to be. You're not, and this is my big mindset change, that kind of why I'm kind of thinking you've got to look at the big picture now, is people are going to expect AI to be in the application they're using. You don't want it, when I'm building user interfaces to go and do chat over my AI applications, people don't want that. They want to jump into Teams and in the conversation they're already having, add your agent in so it can communicate. I want to be in Word and I want to work on my RFP, so I want to add my RFP agent into Copilot in my Word so it can be writing the content directly into my Word document. Copilot is cracking. So I'll actually do a whole how awesome is Copilot talk. There's limitations.
Those lightning talks, like a 5-minute thing.
It is. So it has gotten really good, and for building applications and showing things together, it does crazy great stuff. But I think whether it's Copilot or whether it's Salesforce, the moral of the story is people are going to expect the AI to be in the place where they're using it. They don't want to go somewhere else to go and do AI.
The advantage with Copilot is it's much easier to wire up to prevent data leakage within your tenant.
100%. So working with kind of customers a lot of us deal with, supers, all of those kind of things, the data security around it is solid. And that's why when it was clunky, it's because they were jumping through so many hoops and so many guardrails to make it work. It's great now. I actually find it in my personal life when I'm building a talk like this, when I've got a planning deck, my slide deck, I've got 2 workshops that I'm working on, I don't want to have to upload them. I want them to sit in OneDrive and I want to be able to talk across them with my AI in the state that it's currently in without uploading, changing anything, and being able to work on my documents in the flow that I'm in. It's hard to beat, unless you're in a completely different stack. You're storing your documents in there. But I've become a massive advocate, massive fan. The other thing that's really been changed is Databricks and Fabric. You can now build agents in both of these platforms. So as an AI developer, if you've got someone who says, I've invested all this time and money in building an analytics platform. I've got all this data that's going through my medallion architecture. I've got a Power BI team. I've generated all of this business intelligence that's shaped towards my business and answering the questions that my business wants answered. And I want an AI that can leverage that. You don't want to have to go and build that. And so both of these platforms now have actually made it so that there's AI agents that live in those platforms that you can just talk to. As well as that, we've now got places like Salesforce and SAP that are external third-party systems that are enabling agents to run on their platforms. They're also federating their agent platforms where they can surface their own agents, and your agents can talk to their agents using emerging standards like agent to agent. This is what I now think full stack AI development looks like. You're not grabbing a GitHub repo and deploying some code using a single database and going, I've just built an AI application. The trick to it now is going, what does the business need? What are the parts of the ecosystem needing to target? And you don't need, I need to know enough about the fabric to be able to go kick the guy in the fabric team to say, you need to learn data agents because I need one of those things. You know, you don't need to be the master of everything. I think the other people who need to be going, I'm not going to go and build that. I'm going to connect to that. I need to be able to know that I can build an ecosystem, put it together, and I'm going to architect my app using all the right tools. I've got to put my hammer down unless I really need a hammer, which is hard for me because I've put a lot of effort into building my hammer. And I really love it. It took me almost as long to find the right picture of the hammer as it did to do the Then we've got any ideas? What does everyone think about that? Does that make sense? So I'm actually doing this talk in a couple of weeks. And this was kind of my epiphany mid last year that has constantly have been evolving to where I get to now. Build is on again next month. And there's big parts of this story that I'm really, build after build, I like to do like an update and that's why I kind of started drawing it out when I get the vision. And then Ignite came, and I'll talk about Ignite in a sec. And then I'm like, this is where they're going. So I can't tell you how excited. We should have a build party. Like I'm so excited about what's going to be released to build.
So can you explain about Ignite and Build?
Oh, sorry. Microsoft has two big conferences a year.
All right.
They have the Build conference targeted developers in May, I think. And then they have the Ignite conference in November. So sorry. They're 6 months apart, and it's where they kind of save all the big announcements for them.
But Ignite is IT Pro.
And Ignite is a lot of IT Pro stuff, but that is, and yeah, it's really blurred. And there was a bunch of smoke and mirrors that got me excited at Ignite that was OT Pro Dynamics. And I'll talk about that. I'm hoping that comes real. There's so much smoke and mirrors. So I think really the theme is about using the right tool for the job. And there's also this idea of intelligence platforms. And this is so Build, that whole ecosystem story, I really got cracking on in Build. And at Ignite in November, Microsoft changed it. And they started, anyway, I feel like I'm Microsoft fashion where I'm really a massive, and you can tell I'm a massive fanboy. Microsoft's great at building and engineering stuff, but they're really bad at naming stuff. Except for Copilot. They got Copilot right. I think. No, but like, they got it. My point is, once they did something right, they just used it on everything, and they've done it again. So what they did was they took this ecosystem, and then they came along at Ignite, and they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create intelligence layers, and we're going to whack IQ on the end of everything. But it's actually genius So what they announced at Ignite is Work IQ. And the idea of Work IQ is, and Copilot now, when you're talking to Copilot, the whole point of why Copilot is powerful is you talk to Copilot, I can go, and I do this all the time because I have the worst memory in the world. Tell me what I did this week that was impactful. It's going to check my Teams messages, it's going to check my calendar, it's going to check the transcripts of my meetings, it's going to check my SharePoint, and it's going to bring it all back to me and give me a really nice summary. I can go, so Work IQ is the intelligence layer that sits behind Copilot, and they've exposed it as an API. So building your AI applications now, this is the most vaporware of the three.
I don't know about that.
But there is going to be an expectation. Like I know that I can just see it coming. People are going to want to be able to, in the AI applications that they're building, be able to query their Teams messages.
Not just a next version of the graph.
Yeah, it's 100%. It's graph plus plus. Yeah. So it's a semantic layer over the top of graph.
And it's called just with the same copilot that you have there, or you have to call it through a different copilot.
So this is basically an API layer that you can use to talk to the layer that sits underneath Copilot. So you'll be able to build Copilot-like experiences with the same intelligence layer that Microsoft is using. Is that right?
Yeah, I have heard something similar. Yeah.
But you have to be into Visual Studio Code to acquire that copilot.
Well, it's an API. So Work IQ is an API that you can use to add into your own applications. Then they've released Fabric IQ, and Fabric IQ is cracking. So Fabric IQ lets you go and get and this isn't, I have no interest in becoming a data agent specialist. So, but it lets me go. I went to the data engineering team and I said, I need 3 people on this team who are going to become the AI people in our data, because we have our data engineering and analytics practice and infrastructure practice and AI practice. I was walking down the hall while data agents came out and said, who's going to be the champion? Who's going to be the champion? And they said, I've got all this work. Someone's got to be able to do this. So there are people in that team now that when they're building semantic models so that you can go and ask things like, tell me what trainings go and find the most successful salespeople and what training have they done and how are they spending time in their calendar, and it's going to give me those kind of answers by going and talking over the top of my Power BI models. And I love this user group. That's good. So Fabric IQ is amazing. It does a bunch of other things, but that ability to talk over your data estate within a semantic way is really powerful. The other thing that they've released is Foundry IQ, and I'll talk more about Foundry IQ. But once again, it's an abstraction over the top of capabilities that's already there that makes it smarter and more powerful. And they've just gone and whacked IQ onto the end of everything. I think it's pretty good. I actually think it's pretty cool. So I think this, and this is my brand. I've kind of gone for, this is what I think next year's, and this is what I'm waiting for Bill to go, how far off am I? Rather than being an AI, I don't think it's artificial intelligence. I think it's the Microsoft Enterprise Intelligence ecosystem. I'm running with it. I'm going for brand. Yeah? Anyone got questions? Anyone got feedback? Does it make sense? Does anyone going, you're crazy? Bernie, I can pick your brains though if you don't want to do it now. I'm looking for holes. I'm looking for the things I've missed. I'm genuinely open for looking for. We're a friend. I love this audience. It's a friendly audience.
So it's a very Microsoft-centric view of the AI capability today.
100%.
So you haven't mentioned the fact that build all this stuff with Claude Code. Right? So Claude is a model there, but Claude Code is and Codex and everything else. There's a whole bunch of non-Microsoft tools that are just as capable, in some cases way more capable than some of the comparable offerings from Microsoft. But if you do have a Fabric data estate, and
100%. This is absolutely the Microsoft centric view of the world. I'd kind of go, the Claude Code idea is still, though, when you're talking Claude Code and code generation, it still kind of falls mostly into the pro code, into that pro code stack. And I use Claude Code over GitHub Copilot. So I'm definitely a Claude Code person. But once again, I think that's for building your pro code solutions, for integrating with MCP. I think that's from the pro code side. But yeah, and that's why if your jam is LangChain or alternative frameworks, 100%. And when it comes to data estate, it is absolutely, because our practice is we are Microsoft aligned with Databricks. So that's, and
some organizations are very Microsoft centric and we appreciate this. Others are very heterogeneous. We've got a whole bunch of Oracle here, we've got a whole bunch of SAP over here, and so it's more complex than
it is. And to be fair, that's actually probably the good piece that I haven't put in is your existing. That's actually a great call because everyone has a non-Microsoft estate. And that belongs probably on the other side, like another column on the other side. Yeah, so but I've kind of, it's actually great. They're the integrated enterprise SaaS systems that are AI enabled and integrated, the federated agent platforms. There is a whole other piece, which is the piece that requires traditional integration. That is an excellent call out.
Where is integration?
You are right. So that is awesome. That is a big miss.
Because it could be integrated through the model directly, because at the beginning you said the model is not the problem is the system. And I was trying to see, where do you see the system as a problem? Because the system is the problem, because it's too piecemeal. And then you have to implement one layer over another layer on the parallel side here.
Yeah.
When probably, I don't know, but apparently even from the experience layer, you could extend this if there was no for all the security things in the middle. Yeah. That is the thing that I interpret.
To a degree though, you addressed integration earlier on and was pointing out now it's with MCP and A to A. The integration happens through those protocols with the exposed interfaces. So an MCP client within the Microsoft ecosystem could work with, you mentioned ServiceNow earlier on. So to a degree, there's a different, instead of looking at REST and gRPC and those things now, it's more likely agent to agent or MCP client to MCP server that is going to be the convenient conduit by which stuff comes out. Not related to this, but a point that worries me with regards to like Fabric IQ. You mentioned things, rough things. Who's our best concern that data engineers, people who know their data will be belittled, considered to be belittled that because common questions come through. But a previous employment I had, there was a question about the large school management system. Give us the best teachers who have had the classes with the highest NAPLAN scores. Yeah. Oh, good, that's the best teachers. Well, in actual fact, in some schools, they put their best teachers with the worst students to give them the most address. So their scores didn't come up. So probably just an ethics type thing, that Fabric IQ, while it makes things convenient, you, without understanding your data, CEOs, line managers in non-business related areas could be getting what appears to be intelligent information, but to the detriment of what.
You've asked a bad question.
Yeah. And AI doesn't always. Can I put a pin in that one? That is. I want to come back to that one.
Yeah, that's just a comment.
No, I'm genuinely after the comments, but I want to come back because I've tried to address this.
Okay.
This whole diagram,
the data sources all are in cloud? You're assuming all data for my enterprise is in cloud?
I've had to draw them. I need it bigger, and it comes back to. So this is the list we tried to put on this just on the intelligence, the AI ecosystem. I haven't tied in. I haven't put on the external integration on-prem external systems. But you're right. What I do need is a broader picture that goes. This is the intelligence ecosystem, which is part of a broader ecosystem.
My question is twofold. That is one part. Thank you. Second part of my question is, all well and good to have AI, all well and good to have IQ, all well and good to have LLM. That is wonderful. How do you inject context in this? Because the best AI system will work at best if it has the best AI context.
All about the context.
How do you inject context in this ecosystem?
And so that's it. And this is where I've got a different diagram that I've used for years that explains how it works. And it's literally, here's us querying our data source, our AI search, our database, whatever it is. It brings back the information, then we hand that context and the prompt and the system prompt off to the LLM. The handing off to the LLM with the context is the easy part. Once you've got the context, all of the work, all of the bugs, all of the engineering, all of the challenge is how to get the right context into the large language model. And that's what we're trying. So this is the first time I've done this talk. It's so great to have the question. Because the point of the IQ layer is how do we get the context more easily? And I actually cut them out of the deck. I'm happy to talk through them, but things like Foundry is doing stuff that I did so much work on to do it. So AI search now has agentic search.
I'm just looking at the diagram and I'm saying, this is fine. This is fantastic. In here, how do I know as a third person, where am I injecting the context? If I use this enterprise intelligence ecosystem in my enterprise, this is great. I want to do it. This is fantastic. How do I inject my context? Where do I inject my context?
So the context is all found. Right question. In multiple places.
If you can,
most of it is through the intelligence.
Yeah. So if you can adjust this diagram to somehow explain to me how that context comes into play, that would be beneficial.
Actually, it's that integration and knowledge layer.
Yep.
It makes me feel like that IQ layer should actually be down in the integration.
It could be all
Some of the APIs.
So it's, sorry?
You alluded to before, it's really APIs. So we've got to call the APIs somewhere. So to my mind, as you suggested, more down the integration layer.
Yeah. It probably belongs above the data sources, right, and underneath the agents, because the agents are calling into that layer, which is then talking through.
Adam, I think the federated platforms, the enterprise SaaS system, and the context, the IQ, can be together to fund that context explanation. That's just a suggestion to consider. The enterprise SaaS systems, the federated agent platforms, and the data sources, MCP servers with IQ can fund the IQ, provide that context explanation.
Did you show the graph to Copilot before you put the QR? Before you put the IQ layer?
I should have. You would have told me. You would have told me.
I said, what is missing?
I'm just thinking, what if actually you expose the experience layer, especially the, I guess the Copilot studio channel, so you expose the channel to other third parties. It was Facebook itself and WhatsApp, they also third parties. I guess that's that guy. So they can also
they can
the entire model.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they can definitely be expressed. Thanks, guys. I'm going to definitely have to have a rethink on how that works.
Help of Copilot, please.
Yes, with the help of Copilot. And then Agent 365, you're going to have agents being built everywhere. You're going to have agents from third-party solutions, Procade agents, your data platform agents, and your locate agents. The other big announcement was Agent 365, which essentially is a single management plane so that an organisation can manage all of their agents regardless of where they're from. So, this is kind of it's target state that I understand at the moment. There's not a lot of.
That last bit, could you just recap on the Agent 365? Is that your orchestration agent of agents, or is it just
It's a agent control. So if you want one place to go to say what agents are we going to allow to talk to other agents, what agents are we allowed to access, we're going to give agents identities, you want to do agent observability, all of those kind of things. Microsoft is proposing that Agent 365 is how you manage it, because we're rapidly, I've got customers that have got 300 agents, and that's where early days. So getting to customers with thousands of agents is imminent. And it's, we all know how this goes in the enterprise.
You have all those wonderful Power Platform connectors off pulling stuff in from everywhere, and little data versus hidden away.
It's been too long. You can go, at the moment it's in public preview. It provides an API, lets you access your emails, meetings, documents, Teams messages, and your graph. There's little documentation. There was no dedicated sessions on Work IQ at Ignite. It was more or less announced. Not a lot of info on it. I'm super excited about it. I think it's going to be something we build into applications. Semantic models. I'm only starting to get customers asking me this in the last 6 months, maybe the last 12 months, but it's all been RAG. It's all been, I've got documents, I want to extract intelligence out of documents, I want summarization, I want to find stuff in my documents. Customers are now going, hey, I've got these big data sets. I want to be able to either query my big relational database and query my SQL server and get insights out of it using natural language. I've got all these reports. So this is where a semantic model is really key. Fabric IQ, it's all around turning the data into intelligence. I'm going to go a bit quick. So you can go. So who works with Power BI? One. So it's interesting for me. Who cuts code? Who writes code regularly? Most of the room. Who is low code? There's no bad. I feel now. Did I go too bad on the low? Was I too hard on low code?
I'll read you a quote if I try to look up his name. This is a guy, Boris Cherney. So it's an interview on any podcast. Boris Cherney is the guy who created code. Okay. Considers himself a developer. Hasn't written a line of code in 12 months. Nobody at Spotify has written a line of code in 12 months. I said, if you're still writing code, today you're not a developer, you're just a coder.
Yes, 100%.
So, developers today describe
100%. No, 100%, but you still need those people.
He still reviews code.
Yeah.
Yeah. In 12 months, nobody should be writing code.
Reviewing, yeah, no one should be writing code.
Nobody punch cards anymore.
No. I couldn't agree more. It's actually one of my points of my very last.
I actually have trouble with that, code, because the code is as a result of a probabilistic Markov chain. Because I've got this line, from what I've explored is this line, from what I've explored is that line, and so on. So the code that you're getting is a statistical outcome of all code that has preceded beforehand, and potentially average of code before, because this is the normal distribution of what you get. So the bit that concerns me is as the ecosystem's going, evolve, whether we have developers still being able to write best practice code or good code or new nuances, especially as languages evolve and so on from there. So I have a concern that we end up with what did I call it?
Mediocrity. Mediocrity.
I don't know if mediocrity is like meaning average or below average. My concern is there's a
Diminishing return.
diminishing return, a convergence on what will get developed.
Yes.
And that has advantage too, because then if everyone's got that code from a vulnerability security perspective, just like open source, then it gets rigor around that type of way of doing a solution. I just worry that the finesse and the smart bits of code don't involve the code base.
And I think I want to answer to him. There are two ways. The coding that they're proposing is based on Python, is on very well-trained program. They won't proposing you a code, the language model, that it has not been used because it's been checked. So, and you can check me out. I don't do that. But that's what I think. There are two ways. One is the mathematical calculation that are behind, and then the probabilistic is the language, is the embedding and the coding. So that's the level where we get it. So when you're talking to the large language model, you're not talking directly to the mathematical coding that is behind Python.
I'm talking like say when Lambda first came into C# and so on like that. So if that was a new, and Python perhaps with regard, well, if then loops or something of that nature.
How do you write your code?
Yeah, that's the point. Well, my point is that there may be better ways than the average out there. In fact, there may be better code out there, but because you're getting statistical probability to develop it, on average, as n tends towards infinity, you will get the average most populous. And the dilemma is
just in the two languages. That's what we're talking about.
no.
I'll give an example of this one. Like I was watching a TikTok, right, of a developer. So she was getting an output where there were special characters, right, greater than, small, less than, all these symbols. Then she asked Copilot to, change, get rid of those special characters in the output. So what it did, it still generate the special characters, then write another function to get rid of the special character. But ideally, it should have gotten to the root cause of that and stop the special characters from getting output.
It's
Right?
worth deep diving. There's a whole, you can build a process so that the code for writing is like the code that the rest of the team is writing and meets your requirements. So it can be done. And I think it's probably worth a deep dive in a.
Like I said, well, Deloitte gave a great session where you hear that noise? Yeah. Where first time this century, I've heard SDLC as a development lifecycle, but that was good. And I refer to it, like you've had another term for it, but yeah, the patterns and practices, how to do from there. But just to my mind is that, and because the code gets developed and maybe put in repositories, it's then read and it becomes, as said, n tends towards infinity, you're repropagating that code, that average code in your repositories, and therefore large language models will go over more repositories and see the same rinse and repeat. The statistics of getting that comes down that you will have the average. Sorry to hijack you or not.
No. I think it's one of my favorites. I think we should definitely have a bit of a, maybe that would be a fun bake-off, is we get 4 or 5 people in to show their software development processes. Instead of doing one talk, we have 4 or 5 people go, here's how I use software development. So we might try and rope in some people, from GitHub, maybe get some, maybe get Todd in. Todd's processes, he's a weapon.
JK, even Adam himself and Blake himself. It's interesting there. Next full stack talk is talking about using Claude Code and getting rid of agents and.
Yep. So Fabric Data Agents is essentially taking that piece and saying, we are going to take all of our data sources and we're going to bring them in, put them on the one lake and then expose them via the data agent. So what we can do is, so this is essentially a data agent is an AI agent living in your Fabric environment. So you can expose it, you can consume it in the rest of your applications, you can even connect to it. So once you've got it exposed, and this is when it comes to from a developer's point of view, if you get someone who comes to you and says, I've got all this data and it's in Fabric, I want to go and create an AI application for it, I'd be going, well, I don't want to write your code, right? What we should be doing is getting the data, getting the Fabric team to make a data agent, and then we'll go into Copilot, and we'll go and expose it directly and create an agent that connects to that data agent. And I've got a no-code solution exposing data straight from my Fabric into my Copilot. Or it's available via MCP, so you can go connect to it. So that's kind of the point of the whole point of this talk is kind of think about the other around for this part.
How does row-level security come in for a data agent or even a column level?
So all of these things respect. So this is one of the really big things, whether it's Work IQ, data agent, Foundry. Foundry even brings it in for worship. It's actually respecting your, and so it all relies on using Entra. But if you're in the stack and you're using Entra, it supports. I don't know row level security actually, but I know your semantic. Your semantic layer. So because I'm not the Power BI, I'm not an analytics guy, but I know that it respects the same security that Power BI respects. So
yeah, all I was thinking is that the MCP protocol itself doesn't sort of have a vehicle by which to convey the source user. You have to, what little bit I touched on, you have to sort of dabble and inject something to get it. I don't know, Bernie, if you've got, please, Bernie.
I have a question here. So do the current one legs, yes, do the one legs right now support like the dictionary in here? Because I haven't tried with one legs before. I'm a US guy. So even have a quick site and REST everything in here, but the simple thing is data dictionary to describe, hey, this column this like mean like this one, this column another mean like that one, how we aggregate data. They don't have that kind of feature. So when the agent they come to the database, they don't understand what the database, and they just make the wrong answer every time.
And I think this is the challenge: is you've got to understand what the model is. You've got to have people who build the model in such a way that people are going. And this is one of the challenges around building a semantic model is it's not that easy to go and build something that models a business brief. So it's not that you can go and create one semantic model that represents your whole business. You end up having multiple models that represent particular things. And that's what your reports connect to. And in the same way, that's what your data agents expose.
Where to put that semantic model into your model?
So your semantic model is really, think of it like a database schema, but with a description of what each of those pieces mean. So it's database schema with business context. That makes sense.
How is it different from regular AI agents, right? You give context, you give schema, you ask it to
Computed values.
But instead of talking over the top of, if we jump in and we talk around, if we're working with PDFs and Word documents, we take our PDFs and Word documents and we put them in storage, and then we ingest all of those, that unstructured data. We bring that into AI search. When it's ingested and indexed into AI search, we might go and take those tables and we can have custom fields and we can go and put keys on them, and we're building up an AI repository that we can then query. And in our AI process, we're querying that data, pulling that data back to use it as context. It's exactly the same. Instead of talking about AI search and structured data. there, we could be talking structured or unstructured data that's sitting in a Fabric instance.
I think indexing can make a difference, right? And what is the cost benefit analysis? Like you are talking about data agents, but if I have 100 PDFs and should I use data agent, how do you do the cost benefit analysis? Like at what point you should rely on data agent and just
So data agents very much is the data state. So I had a whole lot of PDFs about gigs of PDFs. Usually I bring them in to AI search. You can come and put them in buckets. Generally, we see unstructured data comes through AI search and your analytics platform keeping in Fabric. So I wouldn't usually bring in. I wouldn't use it.
You use a graph layer, to help the LLM to sort of converse between the two.
That's a great question. That is a really great question.
I think that's the way they're going now to do it.
Foundry IQ. So this I love that question. So we have had AI. So AI search is that database that is meant to be. It's an AI-enabled database where we can load in unstructured data. We go to it. We do a query. It finds the most relevant chunks of information and retrieves it back. There is a new feature in AI search called agentic retrieval. And what happens with agentic retrieval is we can ask, instead of just what used to happen, I used to do all of this manually. Most of the work on my projects was all about getting the context. And because I would have to do multiple calls, multiple functions, I would have to build an orchestrator, depending on what data sources the customer is using. Now I can put a query into AI search, and using agentic retrieval, it will break it up and go, oh, here are the different pieces of information I need. I'm going to break it up into multiple queries. That's going to go and search multiple knowledge sources. Search index in AI search, OneLake, SharePoint, and Bing. It's going to get all that data, bring it back into a single merged set of results and context to supply off to use in my That's AI search with agentic retrieval. Massive game changer. You don't even need to go to an IQ product to get that.
Foundry IQ is the new name for Azure AI search.
No. Foundry IQ is the same way that. So Foundry IQ is an abstraction that gives you more than just AI search is one part of Foundry IQ, but it's kind of.
It's a bit cheap.
Ask a question like this. Equipment with label P432 is not working, CTL11 light is red, maybe power supply problem, the cord has another label, whatever that means. Am I okay to replace the parts? So part of it, if I pass this in, part of it might be coming from data that's consolidated in OneLake. Some of it might be coming from SharePoint. Another part of it, we're not sure what it might mean. It might need to go out to the web. So we might have a single query. What used to happen is we'd pass all of this into AI search, and it would either find it or not find it, or we'd have to break this up and do this ourselves. So this is where Foundry IQ comes in. So with Foundry IQ, it's that knowledge layer. I've got 10 minutes. I'm going to jump to the next one. It is the knowledge layer where essentially I can create multiple knowledge bases. It will go and identify the different parts of my query. It'll actually work out the different intents and treat each one of those independently. So part of it might be going into AI search, part of it might be going and web endpoints at the same time, and bringing the results back. That's probably the main I wanted to get to there. The other piece of the puzzle is we talked about this intelligence ecosystem. We talked about all of the different parts of the puzzle, but quite rightly, we asked, this is a big reason that our AI projects are failing has nothing to do with the technology. Even if we went for the full ecosystem, we're still going to get hallucinations. The number of projects I see, so I've said no to, if I've halted that have ended up on my desk, I've gone into the initial workshops. And one of them I can talk about. That was a reporting solution, an AI reporting solution over the top of us, how structured database works. And this is easy. I'm like, this is an outjob for me. I can bust that out. Okay, blah, 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 workshop, tell us your use cases, tell us the kind of queries you want to ask. Okay, has John Smith had his medication this morning? Okay, this is a reporting solution. Yes, we just want to report, but that's something we might want to report on. Could one of the people in the facility use this to determine whether or not John gets his medication? Well, they could, but we'll put a disclaimer on it. They can't. So there's governance and security. There's the whole responsible AI lens that if you're building AI, there's a lot more than what's just in the ecosystem. There is so much more around the capability of the organisation and what you need to know. Amazing, and I have so many projects that I've stopped or that I've said, well, we need to go and do a responsible AI assessment over this so that we at least understand the risks and then how to mitigate the risks. Or where we've said, customers come to me all the time and go, I'm going to build this customer-facing web application and it's going to have a chat. I'm like, well, we make it customer-facing. How about we make the internal team that's going to be talking to the customer and use it? And once we people who go on use cases first, so I find out, and then it's not a technology problem that stops you going to time. They spent 18 months trying to get something into production that probably should have had some different. I love this. This is from McKinsey. This is their Bank of the Future vision. What they start with at the bottom is an operating model, and it's really big. This is big consulting, but this is gold. And so before you take a photo, I've done an implement. So I'm calling this out because I thought this was amazing. They've got an operating model. On top of the operating model, there's core tech and data, decision making and engagement. I've reinterpreted this, and so this is the kind of thing when I'm working with a customer, I say, beyond the technology stack, we need to work out where do you need to be in 3 years. We need to, it's often, and I start with that ecosystem, and we say, for this solution you're trying to build now, let's look at that architecture ecosystem. What are the parts that we're going to need in the next 18 months? And let's think about how we develop those. We also need to think about your organisation needs an operating model. It needs capability. If you don't have responsible AI and you're thinking about doing AI, you are going to end up on the front page of the newspaper. I was working at Microsoft when the cloud was relatively new, and there was a number of organisations in a year that had big security incidents, and everyone kind of went, oh, what just happened? And it was because people were moving too fast without thinking about ramifications. All of the tools are there, but people don't necessarily use them until enough people get on the front page of the newspaper. I don't want to be that guy. So you need to be thinking about responsible AI. If you're not doing agile and you're doing AI, you are doing it wrong. You need to have a POC. You need to have users using your solution days into the project. You need an AI center of excellence. You need people coming together to talk about this practice. You need a control tower where you're measuring value. Is this actually working? When it comes to technology and infrastructure, this is more or less what we've been doing. There's nothing super new there. Enterprise data. This is one of those capabilities. You start doing AI, and there are 7 sliders that all need to be moving up incrementally. They don't all need to move to the end, but every project you're like, we need to take an agile approach to these 6 things. What needs to move for this project for us to be successful? Enterprise data, there's, some AI specific things in there, but really data governance, data and data security is the big one. You need your AI platform, model provisioning, observability, evaluations is getting really big. Your LLM orchestration, all of these things are cool. You need to be building and reuse, it's the old thing where everyone went and used the same repo and people have got 8 different projects all with different architecture the same thing over and over again. It's time to start consolidating and architecting for reusable components. A predictive analytics model, what are the agents? This is obviously going to end up a really big list, but often I say, this is what are we going to be like in 18 months? What are the big ticket items we want to get to? And then what's your experience layer going to be? What's your strategic goal with it? So I think this, for me, the architecture model, I called out some developer hotspots, responsible AI, the agile ways of working, governance and security. I think I mentioned all of those. FinOps is a big one. Someone called that out earlier. I've had a number of projects. I had a great handwriting recognition project. Had to be super accurate. I came up with a solution, did a proof of concept in about 45 minutes. I said, this works. It's going to cost 10 cents per page. And you're like, no, it can't cost 10 cents per page because we have to do X many thousand pages. I'm like, right, well, I can do you a solution that's going to cost more. It's going to cost you $40,000. They're like, that's cheap. Let's go with that. So literally, we are architecting. AI is really architecting for cost. And then we could have done a better, like someone in my team came up with a much better solution that used a custom trained model. And that would have made sense to process every page. But then we had to go and build a custom model. That didn't matter. So we're on the slide. So FinOps is the one I missed in that conversation. Yes. So really, and 7:59, I never run this close on time. For me, the point of this is it's not about the code, it's not about the orchestrator, it's not about the model. What, as developers, we need to be thinking about is what's the right tool for the job. When I go into a customer, I'm not thinking about what's the right tool for this job. I spend some time with them saying, this is what I think it looks like. Where do you think you're at? And I talk about what are their goals? So I actually did the model, the capability model from the bottom up. I tend to work top down. What's your strategic goal? Where do you need to get to with agents? What are your big win agents? What are your big wins with predictive analytics? Let's talk about what that capability model might look like in 18 months or 3 years. There are pieces we may not start for 2 years, but let's paint a picture. The same with your architecture stack. What would it look like? Because then when we start picking off the pieces, we can start having a roadmap as opposed to just getting, it's fun to just get in and write the code, but I find that's where the wheels come off. I hope that's been insightful up there, not the takeaways. So I think the winners in enterprise AI will have the best ecosystems is the moral of that story. And I hit the wrong slide. This is a terrible takeaway slide. I've got to cut them down, but I thought these were all too good. Can I get 5 extra minutes? 5 extra minutes. You can tell this is the end of the deck. I haven't clarified my messages yet. I think all of these are important. We've talked about ecosystem. We've talked about semantic routing. Agents and tools is much more in that technology space, but that's critical. Governance and observability, starting with real business problems. The whole talk at NBC last year was around choosing the right use cases. Use cases is key. So I could probably get rid of that. I think I've pretty much done this. There's a few ones over here. You can't just do pro code. Full stack AI today for me is Copilot plus Copilot Studio plus Foundry IQ. Responsible AI is a new OWASP. So you wouldn't hire someone today who in a job interview couldn't describe what a SQL injection attack would look. You wouldn't hire that person because they're going to build you bad solutions. For me, a lot of my interview questions are about responsible AI. Should you or shouldn't you? Because I want my engineers thinking about it. So I think as developers, if you're going to build AI, if you want to build AI, you've got to start thinking about responsible AI the same way that you've got to think about responsible OWASP. I invented this DevGovOps. So, and has anyone heard it before? This might be the first outing of DevGovOps. So the same way we had DevOps and we've had DevSecOps, I find I'm spending so much more time managing governance when it comes to a data platform, when it comes to AI. Governance is so much more important, and I've never had to deal with governance with the security team. Now I'm dealing with the AI governance team all the time. So for me, now when I do an engagement, I go find out who their governance team is and I go and make friends. We go for coffee and I say, show me a responsible AI framework. Tell me what you're doing about governance. I want to comply. What do you need me to do? And that unblocks everything. Because all of a sudden, I'm not the cowboy. I'm the guy who's making sure that that's helping them build their thing. So DevGovOps is a talk. And at the moment, that's all I know about it. But I think it's going to be a thing. So watch this space. You've got to push the red button I talked about. Sometimes you've got to veto. And then my last one, if you aren't using AI tools to write your code, you're an accountant with Excel and prime for you're an accountant without Excel and prime for redundancy. So that's me. That's actually your answer, your point there. If you're writing all your code manually today, there are people who are doing things. Literally, when you watch Todd write, when you watch someone like Todd write code, he's not writing code. He's kicking off agents and multitasking. He's kicking off 14 agents and then going and making coffee and waiting for them to come back to him and give them a request. That is the way that we all need to get to, or become architects. Look, I hope that's been valuable. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. Thanks heaps for the awesome feedback. Yeah, I hope that was valuable. Thank you.
Appreciate your involvement in this presentation, but I'm particularly keen on that inspired slide. Would that be available? Are you copywriting that?
No, I can. It's on the internet.
Rehash the McKinsey stuff. So there's the McKinsey Bank of AI, and then the next slide, which I was impressed with the stack there, the opposite one. It said inspired by McKinsey and Company. So I interpreted that you reshuffled the deck chairs and wrote your own thing.
No, so this is, I'm very careful that I deliberately got that. Mine's at 100% inspired by that. I just want to make sure whenever I show mine, I give them credit for.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, yeah, okay. So I was keen on the one you did that.
Sorry. He wants a copy of it.
Oh, copy. If anyone pings me there, pings me on LinkedIn, I'll shoot you an email with a link to the deck. I would ask that you don't. Very happy to share it, but I ask that you don't use it in presentations, especially because I haven't got it out there yet. My goal is with most of these things to write blog posts and get them out there, but for your own companies and for your own work and things, absolutely. It's the whole point of doing this is that you go back to work and you go, hey, before we do that, can we please talk about this? If you want to go and show this to someone to help them make a good decision, that's the whole point of doing it. Awesome. This is the best user group in Australia. Because the people are the best.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to do something that Barney will really appreciate. Coffee cups or whatever, please bring them inside with you. Have a safe trip home and keep your eye on the meetup. It is presentation by Pacific. We may have to move the date. We'll see. Maybe it's going with this recovery, but
Thanks. And wait for your name tags up front, please.
oh yes, the name tags. Yeah, you could.
Going to leave those at the front?
It's just out on the table outside.
You could flip. You could.